keep it coming because we're trying to find the best idea here.
Okay, awesome. And like myself and a group of others are working on trying to be a completely comprehensive plan. Again, what's the best way to communicate, these ideas or concepts to you guys, and work in a collaborative way to provide that solution? Because there's so much that the community has kind of aligned on. We
Sure.
don't want to be bought out, and we don't want to go into Chapter 7, and then we want to be paid back in crypto. So I
Sure.
think those are three things that 99% of everybody agrees on, but we want to work more closely really with you guys to provide
Sure.
very high quality strategy here.
So let me take it in reverse order. So, from the day the committee was formed, or a few days later, I guess, we put out our mission statement for the case, and we said that our goal was to find out the best way to get the most crypto and coins and crypto assets back into holders' hands. That's our overriding goal. It's something we talk about every time we meet as a committee. So that's very high on our priority list. And it's obviously very high on the community's priority list because it's, I think, in 99% of what we get from people. You should feel free to, if you go to the website on Kroll, or you could find, our email on the court pleadings. You should just email one of us, and we'll be happy to speak with you, and we'll see what we can do. Now, that said, look, I know there's, several hundred people here listening. We've got a lot of work to do for the case as a whole. So we're available as a sounding board and a resource, and we will look at what you send us, but we're not, your personal attorneys. We can't do all the work, but, we're happy to kind of see it, give you some directional feedback, and point you to the right place to take it next. But just reach out to us. We get hundreds of emails a day, text messages, tweets, whatever. So we're around. We try to be as responsive as we can, but just reach out, and we will happy to set an audience as quickly as we can.
And what about the auction? I think a lot of us, when we saw the news about the auction coming, it made us uneasy and feel like things are moving in a direction very rapidly that is not what we want. What's your take on the auction?
I think it's important to separate, the auction that happened in Voyager, or the auctions you might read about in bankruptcy, from what is being proposed here. That motion, the bidding procedures, is really intended to provide a framework for people like the community to engage formally with the debtor and the committee about their ideas. And it provides basic criteria against which we can evaluate external proposals. So all the things that I mentioned a few minutes ago, those are kind of like a summation of the things that we are going to look for. So if people are listening and want to talk to us, you should talk to us, email us. But eventually, I expect that, if people are really serious, we're going to say, why don't you go comply with the bidding procedures, follow the procedures, submit your bid on time in the right format. And, this auction doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be like a lowest common denominator situation where we're encouraging people to submit bids, that provide, an in-kind distribution, that provide equity, that provide other types of consideration. It doesn't need to be sort of a traditional auction. And we really tried to get that across in what we worked with Celsius to file. But it's really intended to create a framework for all of you and others that are listening or that are interested to engage with the company and also the committee about ideas and how you can move the process forward. It's like, just to maybe kind of amplify that, for the first month or two of the case, what we kept hearing from people is, hey, I have an idea. Or we heard from investors with, big checkbooks and lots of experience in crypto. We heard, hey, I've got an idea. I want to know how I submit it. And there wasn't a formal process. So there was a little bit of a disconnect. And that's why we encouraged Celsius to do what they did with that motion. And we're happy they did it. And we're I think it's already doing the trick because our phone is lighting up, ringing every day. Our emails are going off every day with new people, that sophisticated investors, deep experience in crypto, that are interested in participating and want to, try to figure out if they can make it work.
I'm not sure I'm following. Like, when you say make it work, in what sense?
I mean, people are, there's a lot of awareness of Celsius, but for investors and other stakeholders that are already involved, for them to put together like a fully fleshed out proposal that could be presented to, the creditors or to the court, it requires a lot of work. So they reach out to us and they say, here's my idea. I don't have these pieces of information, or I don't know if this is interesting to the committee or the community. Can you tell me if this is interesting? And we give them feedback, or we tell them, here's another person that has this, there's other people with similar ideas. Why don't you talk to Centerview, which is running the process? And why don't you, work, get more access to Centerview so you can, make your proposal work. People just can't write a check. They can't sign an agreement without having information. So it's really, it's about connecting those people with the right people that have the information and the ability to kind of advance those bids.
Sure. I just wasn't understanding the relation to the auction.
Well, because look, if we're going to get multiple bids, there's going to be a live auction for some or all of the different parts of the business. If it's appropriate to pressure test different proposals. So just for the sake of argument, say there's two investors, both of whom want to take over the mining business, okay? And they both put up a proposal. We need to make sure that the proposal that is what is effectuated is the most valuable for all of the account users. So just like any other auction, we'll have them go into a, bid against each other and find out who's going to provide the most value to account holders. Similarly, if someone has an interest in the loan book, we'll pit those bidders against each other to make sure the loan book people get the most value.
Sure, I understand. I understand how bidding works. So I might understand the UCC isn't interested in accepting a plan that would involve any form of restructuring?
I'm not sure I understand your question. What do you mean, a form of restructuring?
Sounds like you're interested in plans that all would tie into accepting a bid or a buyout.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of I think we're not using we're all using different nomenclature and vocabulary here. I think we're all talking about the same thing. So let me just level set here. Celsius is going to eventually propose a Chapter 11 plan. And that's a technical term. It's not like a business plan or an idea. It's like they're going to propose a plan of reorganization that meets the requirements of the bankruptcy code. And that plan is going to be the framework for getting out of Chapter 11. And what goes into the plan is really important. So what Celsius is doing with lots of input from the committee is finding out who are the investors and interested parties that might be willing to put something together that could be the basis of that plan of reorganization. And at the same time, we're working with Celsius to see if there is an internal standalone reorganization that is more interesting and more accretive and valuable to the constituents. Celsius, with input from the committee, is going to choose, which one of those proposals, it could be multiple proposals, are the right mix of value to account holders. And then they're going to put that in Chapter 11 plan and ask the court to effectuate it. So I think that's, that's what's going to happen. I know people sort of throw around restructuring or sale or, reorganization. I think, what we're talking about is finding out what idea is the best basis for that plan of reorganization that's going to happen at the end of the case.
Okay.
Otis, go ahead.
Hey, Greg, how are you? Thanks for coming to our spaces.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
I have a simple question. Does Celsius need licenses to return coins to us?
Like I said at the beginning, this is something that we're looking at in a lot of detail. it is almost certain that you will need some type of regulatory license to return at least some of the coins to account holders. And if you don't have that, you're not going to be able to effectuate that part of the transaction.
Has the judge said this? Is there any precedent for this? I don't understand why a judge would require licenses to return coins to us. So if no licenses, we can't get our coins back? That doesn't make any sense to me. With all due respect, it just doesn't.
Well, it does if you look at the situation from this context. Celsius was arguably running an unregulated bank, money transmitting, and investment business. So even if it has your property, you need licenses from various regulators to do those activities. And this is irrelevant whether it's a security or not a security. I know that's a hot button topic online. You can't do certain things in the financial services sector, including things that Celsius was doing, unless you had licenses. It didn't have the licenses. That's one of the many reasons it landed in Chapter 11. So unless and until those licenses we figure out what licenses are needed, and if we can, get them in a timely way, Celsius can't get out of Chapter 11. And anyone that tells you otherwise is misinformed or misleading you.
I wish we could get an answer from the judge. Honestly, okay.
I'm sure the judge is going to opine on this in due course. I think there's a lot of different contexts in which the issue might come up, but he's going to rule on it one way or the other.
Yeah, I thought regulators were here to protect us, and if we can get our coins back, why not just give it back to us? That's all I'm saying. I'm just looking at it from a human point of view. Regulators, here to protect us.
I'm with you.
Exemption.
The regulators. Regulators are there to protect you. But I think the unfortunate fact of the matter is that a lot of people that had no business dealing with Celsius were dealing with Celsius. And the regulators, we might disagree, or we might agree or disagree on their means here, but, the regulations are here to protect certain parts of the population that have no business from trading crypto and investing in these types of financial services from doing it. And when the Celsius gets out of bankruptcy, we all want to make sure that it is on a sound regulatory footing, and you all aren't back here, in the same predicament, right after Celsius gets out.
All right, thank you very much. One last thing. When you say licenses, are you referring to lending licenses or some other type of license? What are you referring to?
I don't want to get into I think the types of licenses that are going to be necessary it's a subject of a lot of work. There's some minimum number of regulatory approvals that are going to be needed to get out, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Greg. Thank you.
Yeah,
sure.
Otis, let me try and help. Sorry. What the community is thinking is that you just think regulations is about consumer protection. That's one facet of regulations. The other part of it is anti-money laundering. And there's many other parts to regulations. And consumer protection is just one of them. One of my biggest complaints about regulations is some regulators are focused more on anti-consumer protection than consumer protection because of these different competing types of regulations that need to come in. But what you're referring to is consumer protection, and the world does not operate off just regulators operating just from consumer protection.
That's a fair point. Otis, there's a wide variety of regulations that are implicated by what Celsius did and might do in the future, and there's all those different aspects need to be evaluated to make sure there isn't a problem in the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dixon, and thank you very much, Greg.
All right, Greg, can I ask a question?
Sure, go for it.
So one of the challenges that we've had is that I think we've all, as a community, been through this crazy process, but we've kind of reached upon that there is a community of people that deeply care about the future direction of this business. And between all of us, we think we have the pieces. And if we all go off on our different facets and submit 6 different recovery plans, I've certainly come to the conclusion that that's not going to happen. The only recovery plan that we think we're going to be able to put together is one that comes from what's best for those that care about this most. And there's like 15 different parts of the Celsius business that need to be taken care of in order to get there. So what I maybe you could give your opinion on this. There's two things that is juggling. Firstly, we'd like to be, or I can't speak for the whole community, but I can speak for myself, that we would like to crowdsource a solution with the entire community for many different parts of this business. And I think in the end, is it going to be way more favorable if we could just come to one plan that we believe with all these different talents and skills from bankers and lawyers and community members and marketers and people with just crypto people with all these different backgrounds? I think for the first time, we've got the opportunity to put all these pieces together and come up with a community plan. But there are also the bankruptcy code, and there are deep restrictions in terms of submissions of plans and what you can do and how you can solicit creditors. Juggling those is pretty tricky, and it's caused a lot of friction.
Sure.
Any tips for how we could come and not breach the bankruptcy code, but use this process of publicly coming to a plan together and submitting it at the right time without breaching, and getting sued and all that type of stuff?
Sure. These are great questions. So let me take it at a slightly higher level of abstraction first. I appreciate a lot of people listening and that are involved have never been in bankruptcy or Chapter 11, before. And but let me tell you, this bankruptcy is immensely complicated and novel on a lot of respects. But one of the ways it's not novel is this: in many bankruptcies, there's a lot of different competing factions that are all trying to get ahead and have their plan, their idea be what wins out the end of the day. And the way the bankruptcy process works is to sort of funnel all of those different constituents into, smaller and smaller groups, so that hopefully at the end of the process, there's one plan that, a critical mass of the creditor constituents all support. And hopefully it's one plan. I am hopeful that enough consensus can be driven here so that there is sort of critical mass among the community for one plan. And, I encourage everyone to sort of find common ground and tell Celsius and tell the UCC what you think, is the basis for common ground. I can't give you legal advice about, you should encourage, talk to your lawyers and stuff. But, at a minimum, there is no prohibition on creditors sort of talking to each other and finding where they have common ground and not. I think a lot of people have talked about, there is a line probably somewhere where, that could run into a problem with exclusivity. But you should all continue to talk to each other and see if there's a way you can find common ground. And hopefully that means that there's, one proposal at the end that has a lot of critical mass from the account users to go forward. And I'll say this again, again, on the exclusivity point, this is why, I know we get a lot of hate mail from the community about exclusivity, because the committee has not said that we want to break exclusivity. We're very concerned about breaking exclusivity because we don't want 15 different plans to be filed, all that have great aspects, but all that have negative aspects. We want to try to force people to work together so that, what comes out of that is hopefully one consensual plan that everyone supports. But that's why, we've been very reluctant to say, go break exclusivity. We don't support that right now because we want to see if it's possible to use that as a hammer to get people to work together in the time being. And if that isn't possible over the long term, that's a different story. But right now, we'd like to try to force people to work with each other. And, if you have concerns or questions about how to best do that, we're happy to be a sounding board as well in that regard. So I appreciate I'm not answering all of your questions there, Simon, but hopefully that provides some guidance to the folks listening.
Perfect. Thank you. Crypto BTC, go ahead.
Thank you, UCC, for answering questions from the community. The community is divided and has various opinions on many of the subjects. But one thing that there is consensus on is that everybody wants their crypto returned in kind. Nobody wants liquidation into cash. The technical solutions to that are easy. We can easily, crypto is fungible, it is easily transferable. We can come up with very easy technical solutions where everybody could, all that can be distributed evenly, satisfying the equitability conditions of the bankruptcy law. But as you touched on earlier, there may be regulatory issues. So first and foremost, the UCC's duty is to the creditors. If the regulators present an obstacle for what's best to creditors that's not based on law, would the UCC be ready to challenge the regulators?
I think you asked a lot of great, complicated questions. Look, we're committed to finding a proposal that has the most creditor support, gets them the highest recovery. Like I said, we're very focused on trying to make sure the most of that recovery is in kind, if possible. And when we figure out what we support, hopefully a lot of people support it, it'll be the basis of a Chapter 11 plan put before the judge. And at that time, the regulators, as happens in many complex Chapter 11 cases, are going to be free to show up and, stand on their soapbox and say if they disagree. And, the judge will decide if it's appropriate or not. And, we will, if we think it works, we'll take that position and say the regulators are wrong. And, we'll try to educate them if we think that they're, incorrect. But at the end of the day, the judge is going to have to make a determination. And if we disagree, we're going to be loud and clear that we disagree and want a different, type of outcome.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll hold. Tegmo, go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Zach. So first and foremost, I want to just say, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. First and foremost, I want to say, Zach, I've always really appreciated your composure, and running things like this, or responding to questions. And then same thing, it's Greg, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, your level-headed, composure and the knowledge you're dropping here is like what all of us in this community have been thirsty for. So I just can't thank you enough for coming in here and answering these questions, because we do these spaces like 24/7, and most of the time we're debating is DeFi Don high? How pointy is Shark's helmet? We're just kind of shooting the shit, right? And just kind of going back and forth and being like, I don't understand this. You don't understand this. This is a good plan, but it might not work. And so I just really, really just wanted to say how much I appreciate you coming in here. I wish these and DeFi Don's last ones were recorded. And I appreciate that you're not even probably getting paid to do this. So this is purely volunteer on your part. Is there any way to get what you're saying in a written format, or maybe it already exists and I'm just ignorant? My concern is that these spaces are, once they're over, right? So it would be nice to be able to share this information with other people.
Yeah, it's a great question. We have so I guess there's two things. We have the website through Kroll. We've got a bunch of FAQs on there. We're in the process of updating them now with some of these other topics that we're hitting on here, some but not all. Second, we had our town hall last week, and that was recorded. And, we did go through a lot of the more detail on, 1145. That's the part of the bankruptcy code that deals with issuing securities and exclusivity and other topics then. So I guess it's out there in the town hall recording, and we hope to put more of this up on the website in the future. But look, I think several members of the committee are listening on tonight. Look, we think a very important part of our mandate is to talk to the community, one, to get your feedback, and two, to kind of educate you to the extent we can about these very complicated topics that have a massive effect on your pocketbooks and your family's resources. So we're going to keep doing it. And we need to put more written stuff out there. We're going to try to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my main point, just gratitude, because as we saw tonight, people can come on and say things that are actually really, really harmful if it gets out there and we're just debating it for a long time. So I just really appreciate it.
Yep. Yeah, we're happy to. So thanks.
Thanks, Zach.
Great question. Yeah, thanks, Tecmo. Organic, and then Celsius Loans after that.
Yeah, hi. Thanks. Thanks, Greg, for coming in. I think let me put it very bluntly here. I think the reason why we are so concerned is because of this auction process, right? I mean, again, you said maybe auction word, or maybe there are different meanings to that. But what we are really concerned of is selling off Celsius assets, no matter what form they are, no matter it's mining or whatever, right, loan book or whatever, at this time, when the market is so down. That's what we are concerned of. So again, I don't know how to really, what is the solution to that, and how to take it forward. But this is our major concern. That's the reason why we are so panicked, and that's the reason why we are all getting together day and night, 24/7. So we want to make sure that you are aware of this issue.
I'm sorry, I kind of missed the what's the specific issue that you're focused on?
Basically, we don't want to sell our assets, like Celsius assets, in the bear market, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you are auctioning them. I mean, basically, you're trying to get bids on that, and and then again, put one bidder against another one. I mean, no matter how many bidders you put against each other, right? I mean, it's going to be always different from what it is now, and what it's going to be like future, probably, right, a year from now.
Yeah.
So,
right. Yeah. So again, I mean, I don't want to regurgitate everything I just said, but 20 minutes ago. But the auction process is intended to find proposals sort of broadly conceptualized from any number of investors, and if we get more than two or more proposals for the same part of the business, like for example mining or the platform or whatever, then we'll try to pit them against each other and see who we can squeeze the most value out of, and make it most interesting. And the competitive will help do that. We don't want this to be a liquidation. That's not our goal. Our goal is to kind of get the best, proposals broadly construed.
Does the UCC consider future value of assets? Like, it's one thing to maximize the value of an asset today, but all of us are in crypto because we believe it in long term. And is the UCC thinking about, hey, we might want to hold on to this asset or take the risk of holding this asset for a future value that could be much higher?
Yeah, I think it's a really early stage right now, so it's important not to sort of get too far in the weeds on hypotheticals. That said, I think as the committee looks at what to do, we are trying to see, we are taking into account, what's the long-term value by a certain type of proposal, and does it get you more, return over the long term versus just, some baseline number today. I don't want to go into like how we look into that, because there's too many variables to really hear an answer. But yeah, sure, yes, at some level, yes, that's right.
So that that's exactly what we are worried of. I mean, we even if no matter how many bidders might put against each other, whatever value they might come up with, it's still a bear market value, right? It's not a future value. We know, like, when originally our assets were used for mining, right, and for miners business. I mean, that time the market wasn't that bad, and that's where we lost most of the I would say crypto, right? And now we are at this point, we're in chapter 11. I mean, I think reorg and moving forward, and kind of waiting for a better day, to kind of be able to either use our assets to go IPO or whatever, right? I mean, that is still the best way out to make us whole. Otherwise, basically, it's a haircut for sure, no matter what. I mean, it's a haircut. That's what we are worried of.
Yeah, look, our goal is so that no one gets a haircut. If there is a haircut, we want to minimize it by bringing as much competitive tension to the situation and making sure the best proposal, is out there. I mean, that's the bottom line.
And I think that's a call for us to all get our shit together and put together the best proposal.
Yeah. So look, I'm not in the position to tell you what. Yeah, you guys should. Everyone should think about what is most interesting to them. I encourage, as is already happening, everyone should keep talking to each other and figuring out where there's common ground and where there isn't. Because I think for the committee, I mean, there's a lot of things that we will look at, but one is, we want to make sure what we support is popular and, at a minimum popular enough to pass the vote in Chapter 11, which requires, effectively 66 2/3 of the account holders by value of coins effectively to support it. So we're going to need to make sure it's popular enough, and we're trying to suss that out.
Okay, go ahead, Celsius Loans.
Hey, Zach, thanks. And thanks, Greg. I see Scott Duffy also listening in. Yeah, I just want to echo Tecmo. This is incredibly helpful from your perspective to be able to offer your expertise from the UCC as well as your, your experience as a lawyer in bankruptcy court. It's going to move this process in the spaces that much further, that much quickly. You mentioned the auction of the collateralized loan portfolio. And in the context of an auction, I just want to ask you and kind of give it for thought for the group here as well. Obviously, there's crypto collateral that represents $765 million. I know that we're talking about a potential auction and what that represents, whether that is borrowers leaving the estate, but what does that do does that put more money back into the estate? My question is that if there's a competitive auction for the collateralized loan portfolio, if that makes sense, because we have to figure out is all of the collateral there? Is it with Celsius? Do borrowers have title to it? My concern just about the auction process is we haven't even determined, does custody's coins belong to custody? Do borrowers' coins in collateral belong to us, etc.? So just the collateralized loan portfolio is going to get auctioned off. I think that's got to get figured out, and it's got to be a positive sum for everyone else that stays at the debtor's estate. And then the one other thing is if the collateralized loan portfolio does not get auctioned off, whether it's not going to be positive for borrowers and it's not going to benefit everyone else, because a lot of borrowers are also in earn as well. Just how do we utilize the collateralized loan portfolio to generate a profitable revenue stream in the way ahead in a new reorganization, whatever that looks like. But thanks for the time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Zach.
So look, I mean, the Celsius is work. We've had several hours of phone calls with them over the last few days. I mean, they're working very hard with a lot of input from us, which they are taking very, handily about what a baseline restructuring might look like if we don't get some external proposals. So they're working very hard to see what like a baseline restructuring could look like. And when the proposals come in for the collateralized loan book or mining or whatever else, we're gonna compare it to, we're gonna compare all those different options. I don't know if it was you I spoke to yesterday. Or the other day.
That's me. Yep.
Yeah. But like I said, I mean, we want to get the most for the loan book, is like everything else. I think it's too early. I think we're just going to have to see what the art of the possible is. Now, look, I think there's some important gating items here. Like you hit on custody. We're going to there's the trial about custody, which is going to happen later in the year. There's probably going to be similar proceedings to figure out some of these other related issues, like what's property of the estate, what's not. So those questions, some of those questions, maybe not all of them, but some of those questions might need to get figured out before a real, proposal is worth putting on the table. So we're trying to find the right way to frame all that so we know the answers before you go to Judge Glenn and ask him to approve something that might have issues with it. So I hate not giving you like a 100% answer on what you're saying, but we're trying to figure out as many of those questions as we put together different options here, and we'll see
And
what
definitely, Greg,
we can do.
And borrowers, I mean, I speak for myself as a borrower. We're open. Like if there's an auction that there's a solvent lending platform that comes in, they do a higher bid than what Celsius has that we owe. It's about, if you take collateral minus principal, it's about $350 million. If a solvent lending platform comes in and bids $400-500 million for that entire loan portfolio, I'd hope people in the debtor's estate would say, hey, we're going to infuse an additional $150 million that can be distributed about, and the loan portfolio moves on. But if that's not going to be feasible, a loan portfolio with the collateral not being haircutted, and a haircut by another means, whether it's a longer maturity date, whether it's an increased interest, borrowers as myself completely open to that, so that we can keep a new company that's reorganized, viable, with a highly profitable revenue stream, which is retail crypto lending.
Yeah. So let's keep talking about it and see what we can put together and what people are willing to invest. And, that's the only way we'll figure out what to do.
Appreciate it. Okay, let's go to Jimmy, then Shark.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for taking or being on this call. I guess one thing I would love to see from the committee is knowing how much misinformation we're getting. And literally, I'm not sure if you were on the call when the former founder and CEO of the company was on here answering some questions. He stated that we didn't need any licenses or regulation, was not an issue for them to be able to turn back coins, what he called Chapter 1. And Chapter 2, he's, had some different steps for. And then he was saying until we get to Chapter 3, we don't need to deal with regulation. And I guess why I think it would be so important if members of the UCC could periodically be in these rooms to kind of level set, because if you had not come in today, we would have had a complete chaos for the remainder of the night and all day probably tomorrow, because the former CEO and founder of the company had told us, and certain people would have sworn that he just told us we don't need this. And most people would assume that the former founder and CEO, up until a week ago or 5 days ago or how many days ago, was in constant touch with the UCC and knows what's needed or what can be done. So the fact that he just made that comment and you just came in here and completely just said that is not accurate, what he just told us, is really makes us, I guess my point is, we've spent so many hours in these rooms wasting our time hearing things from people that just can't be done. And knowing that you guys have a direct access to more information of what is possible, it would really help us knowing that, because you're telling us we need to come together and present to you guys most likely one plan as opposed to 15 different options. So if we could have more access to your committee, like you being in here for an hour or two a night or somebody else, it would really help us, because as we're bouncing ideas off, and if somebody's saying you can do this, it's great for your team to be able to say, no, this cannot be done, and here's why. So we don't go off on these tangents and waste considerable time and energy.
So I think, Jimmy, thank you for the question or for the commentary. To be totally honest, my committee members probably message me multiple times a day and tell me about these different events. And, I candidly have not been compelled to join and speak before, or the committee as a whole has not been compelled to join before, but we kind of got some flares shot up by, several dozen people, that the committee members and several dozen of you to kind of like say, hey, there's something going on. You should really set the record straight. So, we felt that coming out of last week's town hall, it'd be appropriate to do this. I don't think we can, I don't know if we can't join every day by any means, because there's just so much to do. But we'll try to join more often. We're planning more town halls coming up soon to try to make it, more regular. And then, if I just want to drive home the point, I know Celsius's advisors have taken a lot of heat for a lot of things in the bankruptcy. We've been on this regulation point. It's, we've been working with them literally every day for weeks and they have a special law firm, Latham and Watkins, great law firm, hired specifically for the sole purpose of figuring out how to make the regulation work. So Celsius, special committee, Chris Ferraro, Kirkland, Latham, they know that regulation is needed. And, they work with us literally every day about how to figure out the best way to thread the needle to make it all work. So I regret that there might have been some statements to that effect earlier. As I said, we don't know exactly what mix of regulation needs to be complied with, but there's some baseline that will be. And we're working like literally every day. Today we had, a half dozen phone calls throughout the day on this very topic. So it's something that's very hot and heavy, and that Celsius is very focused on too, because the people running the restructuring there, which is not Alex, it's Chris Ferraro and the special committee members, they are extremely focused on the regulation piece and getting it right this time. So
well, that's great to hear. And the other thing I'll mention to you is you also commented on the mining, which the former CEO made a comment about, feeling that could fill the hole. And anybody that's still speaking to him and bouncing ideas off of him, I think it's really concerning, the comment he made saying, well, Anthony, is the expert and he gave us the numbers to go by. I don't know Anthony from Adam, and I know he's been in spaces, and I don't know truly how much of an expert he is, but hearing you comment that you actually visited the facility and some of the comments you made were also completely opposite of what we heard. So it was great that you were able to say, don't listen to anybody that's trying to throw numbers around because they don't know it. So I think that type of information is really valuable for us going forward. So once again, we appreciate that. And really, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. So I think Scott Duffy is, listening tonight. Scott and our other co-chair, Tom, made a special trip to Midland, Texas yesterday. They met with the local management, with a couple representatives from my firm, from M3, which is our restructuring financial consultant. They spent basically the whole day touring the site, meeting local management, hearing about things. And like I said, we're very focused on mining. It's a really interesting differentiating factor for Celsius versus Voyager. It's a huge business that might have some real value, and we would like to figure out what best way to. We want to figure out what that value might be. We need a lot more information, and again, Chris Ferraro has been the new CEO for a week. He in particular has been very solicitous of the committee members' views on the mining operation, and we look forward to continuing to share those views with him, over the coming weeks and months.
Great. Thanks, Jimmy. We'll go Shark, Simon, Otis, and Joe. Go ahead, Shark.
Thanks, Greg. Tremendous thanks for all the reasons that were stated. Greg, we're looking at a schedule where bidding opens up, or final bid deadlines on the 17th. That looks like it culminates, about 15 days later, with a couple opportunities for objections there. Considering that this exclusivity from Celsius ends on November 10, can we expect the UCC to object to turning that bid into a sale? Because obviously there's a time conflict there, right? If we don't have a restructuring plan to look at, but bids have to be final not objected to by that date, doesn't that leave a like, that's what I think where the nervousness comes, is it looks like we're in a position where the sale might come and it might go off and running, and we might not have a chance to weigh in on it or even see an alternative restructuring plan in relation to it. Can you add some clarity around that?
Yeah, let me take a step back here. From the early days of the case, what the committee has heard loud and clear is that the community wants two things. They want to get liquidity and access to their coins really quickly, and they want to get the most value, recognizing that there's a good chance there will be a shortfall here. Okay? So the way we set up the bidding process to try to hit those goals is, we said we're going to do a shorter auction for the platform business, so to see if there's an external investor that's willing to sort of pay top dollar and give you the most value in terms of coins and other consideration. And, we're going to see if anybody shows up. And if I expect people will show up. And once people show up, what we're going to do is we're going to see if those are worth pursuing, or if we should sort of hold things back a little bit further and do sort of a second auction with other assets, particularly the mining business, put everything together at that point in time, because the mining business is not in, the business plan and some diligence information is just not in the position right now to kind of get top dollar. We're working on it very closely with the company to make it, to improve it and clarify it. If there's no certainty, I don't want this to be clear, there's no certainty that the platform will be sold during that first stage of the auction. If the bids aren't good, or they're defective, the committee and I expect the debtor will hold them back and try to do a bigger transaction later in the case in the new year. I think the important thing to you talk about exclusivity and voting on the transaction and stuff. I don't really view the two things as connected. There is zero chance there will be a fully baked plan that anyone, let alone the committee or Celsius, could support by November the 13th, which is when exclusivity ends, or by the end of the initial auction period. There's too much that has to happen in the next 5-6 weeks. So I think we are going to see what comes in stage one. If it's something that's compelling enough to let the platform business go out, that'll be something we can discuss and socialize and see if it makes sense. If not, there's going to be a broader plan put together as a backstop that would be later on, and that in turn will keep these bidders honest, because they need that there's a standalone alternative there that the creditors are going to be interested in to keep them honest. So hopefully that helps. I appreciate the timeline here is a little disjointed, and hopefully that helps clarify some issues.
So there is a chance that a bid gets accepted and goes to sale before we ever see a fully baked restructuring plan.
Yeah, that is a possibility. But again, the committee is, I think we have a pretty good sense of what a restructuring plan might ultimately, the different parts that a restructuring plan might ultimately take. If the bids are, not interesting enough, we're fully ready to hold everything back until the structuring. But we think it's important for the community to see, given how expensive this process is and how long it is, and the desire we hear from so many people to liberate the platform business sooner than later. We thought it was important to try to have at least an initial cut to see if there was anything really compelling out there. And if there is, that'd be something we can consider. And if there isn't, then, we're going to have a broader restructuring put together thereafter. But nothing is set in stone. There's no assurance by any means that they're definitely going to sell the platform business. So I don't want anyone to be under that pressure.
Okay, yeah. That when we see that sale, that's a major concern, because again, I think 99% of people, at least on Twitter, don't don't want to sell right now. But thank you, Shark. Go ahead, Simon.
Thank you. Two, if I may. First one is if you could put some thought into how we can communicate with more creditors that are just simply not within this community. There's hundreds of thousands of them, and we got no idea of how to communicate with them. So if there's any thoughts around how that could happen, that's that would be great, and we'll come up with some initiatives. But if the UCC could think about that. And then the second one is Alex put out there that the equity holders might do well out of this somehow, and I always thought that equity holders would get wiped out and everything's for creditors at this stage. Could you help us understand that? Because yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, look, we're all for more people being part of the process. You know, I'll just tell you. I mean, I don't. I think anyone that's mildly interested in Celsius and the restructuring process has found a way to communicate in some way. You know, whether it's through Twitter or Discord or Reddit or something else. I mean, I think there's a real critical mass of people participating. So, but you know, we'll see if there's other ways to do that, you know, in the future, and we're always thinking about it. As to the second point, I don't know exactly what Alex had in mind. The committee's view is that the customers, if you look at the terms of use, they had a contract with Celsius and all of its affiliates. That means that we have claims at all of the debtor and non-debtor entities. And as a result, unless we get, you know, a full recovery, you know, no one, you know, the equity or the preferred equity doesn't get any recovery. Look, they're represented by very credible, established firms, and I'm sure they're going to come up with lots of ideas about why that is not, you know, what they want the end of the case to be. You know, and we're, you know, we're preparing to, you know, have those types of disputes if it comes to it in the bankruptcy court. But I don't want to speculate as to why, you know, the equity might do or not do something, or why it gets something or it doesn't get something. You know, we're focused on getting you all the most, that's customers, the account holders, the most right now.
Thank you.
Otis?
I think Joe was in front of me. Joe, go ahead. I'll go after you. Joe was in front of me.
Thank you. Greg, I just want to reiterate, thank you so much for really listening to the community and listening to all the plans. It sounds like, you know, you're hearing some good ideas out there, but the biggest issue, it sounds like to me, is the biggest hurdle is the regulatory and licensing to make the plan, any of these plans, or, you know, combining these plans and making them feasible. My question is there two parts of the question. Is there a way for the UCC to not kind of sit back and wait for that to be clarified by the court, but to take a proactive approach, working with Celsius and kind of identifying which licenses are needed and how to kind of proactively approach all the regulators to get those licenses, selling it to them as like, this is pretty much a new company, community driven, owned, and we would hate for it to fall apart because we don't have the licenses, and, you know, starting from scratch, what do we need to do to get your approval so that we can make Celsius a great platform? And if there's a way to do that, is there a way that you think the community can help with that? Because there's a lot of talent here, a lot of passion, and if we kind of know what the hurdles are, exactly which licenses are needed, I think we can do a lot to get our voices heard. That, you know, we would really like to see a common sense framework to make it work.
You know, I think it's a tough question. So as I mentioned earlier, the committee is doing, you know, just an immense amount of work on the regulation piece. The Celsius has its own advisors doing their work, and we're working very collaboratively to figure out the best path to do it. And so far, I think there's been a lot of general consensus among our two sides that some baseline requirements to get out of bankruptcy from a regulatory perspective. We have both. I'll speak just for the committee. The committee has also had some preliminary discussions with certain regulators about their perspectives and concerns, and we'll continue to sort of have that dialogue. But again, the bankruptcy court is really good, like all U.S. courts, is really good at deciding very specific issues in front of it. And the bankruptcy court here, will bet dollars to donuts, is not just going to make some advisory opinion about regulation and contract. I mean, Judge Glenn is almost certainly going to want particular transaction or course of action in front of him before he makes a ruling on particular regulations. So that's why we're working behind the scenes to do as much of this work now to try to figure out what the answers are and try to get some, hopefully we'll get some consensus with the regulators in due course. So, I think that's all I can really say about, using the court right now to get regulation approved.
You finished, sir?
Yes, I'll just say, Greg, as soon as there's clarity on exactly what is needed, again, the community spends a lot of time and there's a lot of people. So, once we have clarity, we can maybe identify ways that we can work together to promote that vision of fully compliant, community-owned crypto platform with the regulators.
So just keep the ideas coming. I mean, there's no, I don't want anyone to be dissuaded. You should. If you have ideas, you know where to find us. Tell us if if you have an interesting way to look at it, tell us, and we'll take that in, under consideration. And we've already got a really interesting ideas, and we continue to expect we'll get some more in the future.
I think I was next, right, Zach?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Greg, I have two questions. Really, two statements. The first is, please don't accept a bid at the auction, if it doesn't return at least 90 to 100% of our coins, because in my mind the case is just going to end too soon. I mean, imagine you take a bid and the case just ends and you don't meet your billable hours. Then what are you going to do? So we want you to continue billing. That's a joke, but on the serious side, here are some numbers that I think you should consider. And, hopefully Mr. Scott Duffy is listening, who's the co-chair of the UCC. Celsius Mining LLC owes the community $550 million. That's from the $750 million intercompany loan that Celsius made. So that is our money coming in. Core Scientific, which is a publicly traded Bitcoin mining entity, I think it's traded on the London Stock Exchange, owes Celsius $100 million. GK8 is valued at $200 million. Celsius has an investment in Polygon, $40 million. I don't think a lot of people know that. Celsius has an investment in 1inch for $25 million. You add those numbers up, that's $950 million that will be coming back to the community. Now, Celsius has a loan with Equities First for I think it was $500 million, but it's down to $376 million plus 4,000 Bitcoin that's coming back to the community, which they're paying $5 million a month to Celsius for. Jason Stone lawsuit, I believe Celsius is suing them for over $100 million, and Stakehound / Fireblocks owes Celsius 35,000 ETH. My point is, you take a bid, and whoever makes that bid, and we're not 100% whole, they get all of those assets. All of that money goes to them. This is why we prefer to do a standalone restructuring. Those numbers tell you everything you need to know. And, I hope Scott Duffy is listening, and I just wanted you to hear those numbers. It's not a question. I just wanted you to hear the numbers. Why? And this is at the bottom of the market. Celsius mining alone in the next bull run can go for, I don't know, $5 billion.
You know, I think maybe 2 points. I just as a warning, I need to jump off in about 15 or 20 minutes. So I apologize. You all keep going after that, I'm sure, but I unfortunately have to go do some other things on this matter actually. But I think, look, as a general point, until you all get exactly what you're owed, all the money that Celsius gets should go to you. And we're not like, even if the bankruptcy is not going to we're not going to have some arbitrary point in time and then, more money comes in and it goes to the equity holders. I mean, until you guys get made whole, everything goes to you. I do want to caution the people that are listening, though. I'm not quite sure where those numbers are coming from. I think we're going to
declaration, Alex Mashinsky declaration and
right.
AMAs. But I remember
Okay.
not a lot of people on this call will know that Celsius invested in Polygon or 1inch. I do, because it was on an AMA where Alex showed us and I Googled it. Yeah. So the information is pretty accurate. What I'm saying is
you got it. But
imagine
you got to trust but verify. And given the source, I'm not even sure you trust. You got to verify. We are.
Are you saying what's in the declaration is not good?
It's just it's one man's opinion. We're trying to figure out what all these things are worth right now, and for example, GK8. We're in the market trying to see if people will buy it.
They'll try to buy it for $50 million at the bottom of the market. This thing is worth $250 million. But anyway, let me just finish.
Than what it was bought for or what people hope for, but we're in the world of, we're past hope and dreams. We're trying to see what we can actually get from these different things. With the lawsuits, look, we have a lot of confidence in what Celsius is doing to get that money back, but until it's in our pockets, until it's in Celsius's bank accounts, we it's just it's a contingency. So look, here's my bottom line. We are committed to getting as much money back into Celsius so that you all can get the best possible recovery here. But until those things are in Celsius's bank accounts or in your pockets, we're just going to have to keep going at it. And I would just really caution people. And let's make this last point. I just would really caution people about what they read. Something was bought for, or what the book value was, or what it was valued at a couple of years ago. It's just these things. What something is worth is what the market will fetch today, and I don't know if the market will justify those prices. I mean, that's why we're trying to see what these.
And that's
my
exactly
only point,
part of our point. If I could add on that's exactly our point, is that everybody knows that the market is not going to fetch a fair or what we would consider a fair value for these assets. So that's why there's such an impending urgency not to sell these assets. I mean, I would bet you would, if you asked the entire customer base of Celsius, 90% would say, no, we don't want to sell now. The market is terrible.
Let me clarify. I mean, what the market will bear, I mean, it's what external parties will say it's worth, but it's also what Celsius and the Creditors Committee, looking at the assets today, think they are worth, which could be higher than what a third party investor will put there. But I think that's the same point, is until Celsius and the committee, and in particular the committee, is done with our work, people should take all this information in, but you should treat it with skepticism, and just be very careful about making important decisions based on that. I think a lot of work has to go on for what Celsius is worth, and we're doing that work now. So,
Greg, my only point, and this will just take 5 seconds. I know you got to go. I don't want to take up any more time. My only point I was trying to make is, right now Celsius has 50% of our coins. They can give us 50% of our coins, and all of that that Celsius owns belongs to us, which will make us 100% whole. Someone makes a bid. Instead of we getting 50% of our coins, we get 55%, and then they run off with all of these assets. That's all I'm trying to say. 55% is not worth it. If you want these assets, give us 90 to 100%. That's all I'm saying. The numbers are here. You guys are the attorneys. You think my numbers are wrong? Feel free to go look them up. I don't think my numbers are wrong. I know they're not. I have a photographic memory when it comes to this stuff. I'm done.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks, Otis.
Thanks. So go ahead, Daylong, then Anthony, and then I am.
Hey, Greg, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. For my own conscience, I just want to make sure, and if someone said this to you today, tonight, a couple days ago, I just have to make sure that I hear myself say to you, and I make sure that you hear it, is that all we really need, whether it's Zach's plan, Simon's plan, a plan that is together, a combination of the two, or some other plan, one ingredient, one thing we can almost wholly depend on is a Bitcoin that is worth 5 to 20 times more in the next 12 to 36 months. And if that which will almost certainly happen, I'm not saying I have a crystal ball, I can't guarantee it, but by just the virtue of, we really just have to depend on Bitcoin doing what it does, and that will take care of the whole many, many times over with all of the assets that Celsius has. All we really need is for you to help us get the time. That's it. That is all we need. Someone like me who has, a several $million position, has some loans. If someone comes in and gets, I get 50% on 50 cents on the dollar, the cascading effect of then the loans closing, the tax implications on those forced closures, I'll be lucky if I don't owe money. And I think I speak for most of the people that are on this call. To get 50 or 60 cents on the dollar, anything less than what Otis is talking about, 90 cents or 100, destroys almost every single person that is listening to this. We get people with loans will get literally, we will literally owe tax money. So I wanted to make sure you heard that. I'd love to hear your response, and I appreciate your hard work, sir.
Yeah, sure. So look, we want, like I said, I don't want to repeat myself, but look, we want to find the best proposal for the creditors, whether it's internal to Celsius or external or partnering in some way. We want to find the best proposal, and we hear you loud and clear that the community thinks crypto has long-term, heightened value, and that's why we're very focused on trying to get a in-kind, the most in-kind recovery we can, and because we hear loud and clear that people think it's going to rebound significantly, in the near future, and we don't want people to leave value on the table today by short-circuiting the process. So I appreciate the bankruptcy is longer than all of you would like, but we're trying to, now that you're in the mud, we're trying to get out, in the best possible way, and that means taking our time to get it exactly right.
Exactly.
And again, yeah, exactly. So I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, I don't want to repeat myself.
Thank you, Greg. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Great. Go ahead, Anthony, then I am.
Hey, Greg. Anthony here. Like Jimmy would say, some guy you don't know verbatim. I would assume that's what he said earlier. But yeah, here, quick question for you. I know you're basically putting up the businesses for potential, auction, bids, etc., to kind of get the value of the businesses, right? On the open market. Do you guys have just an appraiser coming in with a non-biased opinion to a Chapter 11, etc.? Because I think that's a lot better way of doing that, because getting it appraised, like these guys have all been saying, in a bear market and being in Chapter 11, there's no way you're going to get fair value for the entity, any entity. It could be the mining, GK, etc. So do you just have straight appraisers coming in to give you an appraisal on top of potential bids? Because these potential bids are going to be so skewed, it's pretty much irrelevant, in my opinion, for the most part.
Yeah. We don't have an appraiser per se, but the company has hired Centerview Partners, which is a really great investment bank. And the committee is working with Perella Weinberg, which is another really amazing bank. And as we hear from people in the market, Centerview and Perella talk all the time. and they call balls and strikes about, whether people are too, valuing things too low, and if we think there's sort of like inherent value in keeping it. This is really kind of like generalizing it, but like that's exactly, I think we're doing exactly what you do. Like we have a second set of eyes that says, hey, this is not good enough. Don't go for it. Like that's exactly the process
I get that, but are these people, because there's only a small circle of people that would be, in the know of this crypto industry, because this is a newer thing for the most part, as you know,
Yeah.
compared to a lot of things. I'm just saying, do you feel like they're in the know and as connected with people and understand actually the real value of these things? Do you feel that?
Yeah, I think for Perella, especially Emmanuel, I think joined our last event for a bit. He's the guy with the British accent from Perella that you might have heard. He's literally done dozens of crypto mining, kind of related digital asset transactions. He knows everyone in the space, and has just massive. I mean, this is literally all he does is work with crypto businesses to figure out how to raise capital, sell themselves, buy other companies. That's literally all he does.
That's good to hear. That's really good to hear. Yeah, I was just gonna say, no, on top, like, to what you're saying, that's just the key in my opinion, because like I was just saying, and with everyone on here is just reiterating it over and over and over again, and you get the point. But no one, why would you pay full price for a company's business in Chapter 11, and you're gonna come in most of the time with a outrageously low offer, and of course you could get a couple people against each other to raise those offers. But like for the Voyager situation, basically FTX paid $50 a KYC customer, because basically they just wanted the database in the sense of buying KYC customers, which are huge. And if we go to the equities business, right, if you go to like the TD business, which is Schwab today, or like you go E-Trade, whatever the case may be, when you go to these companies, their valuations of these platforms, basically the value of their company is about $2,000 per KYC customer, which is insane. It's typically around 1,500 to $2,000 in the equities market when a company gets a valuation for a KYC customer. And of course, we're in this newer industry, it's crypto, etc. But Sam was able to get basically each KYC customer for $50 a head, which is just outrageously cheap. When you think about all the future money you could potentially make off these customers. So I'm just saying, like, just understanding all these little things, these components, and not just giving things away. That, I think that's the point everyone's trying to make. But I think you get it.
Yeah, loud and clear. Look, we gotta go through the process, see what's out there, and yeah. But I think, as evidenced by this phone call, and I'll just tell you, I know Celsius is doing just an immense amount of work, and Chris Ferraro has brought immense rigor to this whole process of late. They're really focused on trying to figure out what's the best way to do reorganization, standalone type idea, and they talk to us about it all the time. We're trying our best here. We're definitely not giving it away, and we're trying to figure out the best way to skin the cat to do that. So, but yeah, it's been loud and clear. People are very interested in an equity swap kind of deal. We're really trying to figure out. It's really a matter of figuring out the best way to do it, and then pressure testing it to see if people out in the market might do better, or have provide more value than we think we can kind of bring from the inside out. And and I really I just want to drive home, since Chris has been elevated, he has a weekly call with our two co-chairs. Just the information flow is just really unprecedented. We're getting tons of information. They facilitated this trip to Midland, and they're really hearing us out. I don't know if we're going to agree with Celsius on everything. In fact, I know we're probably going to disagree with them on a lot of things. But they're really trying to see what can be done on this, trying to reinvent some type of Celsius in some, probably a different name to say the least. They're trying to see what they can do. We're going to keep working with them in that regard going forward. But everyone should know we're not just like kind of having a naked auction and saying with a carnival barker here to try to get move out our inventory, after the Christmas season ends or something, to mix metaphors. I mean, we really are trying to, that's like a last resort. We're trying to focus on like a reorganization idea in the meantime. And, we're doing a tremendous amount of work on that. So.
And just to add, Anthony is the lead on the Bitcoin equity proposal that we presented to the UCC, just for anyone that doesn't know. So he's not Anthony nobody, he is Anthony somebody. We work together lots and lots and lots of hours to get his proposal to the UCC. So he's not a nobody, he is somebody.
And we appreciate you and Anthony calling us before and doing the calls and sending us the videos and everything like that.
And there's more coming. There's more coming. We're preparing even more.
You're very welcome.
I am. So I have to jump off in a minute here, but I think just for informational purposes, what you should be aware of is after a long wait, Celsius is now in the process of filing these schedules and statements. So if you get the docket updates, I imagine tomorrow you're gonna get many updates, and if you download them, you just don't print them out, because there's literally like hundreds of thousands of lines, tens of thousands of pages of information. Those are getting published tonight. I imagine that information about the claim process and what you have to file or not file will be forthcoming in the future. But the committee was made aware of this before it happened. It was delayed because of Judge Glenn's rulings on the privacy issue that took some time to get out there. Now that this important part of the restructuring process is complete, there's going to be more information provided to you in the near future about the claims process and how to what that's going to entail. So no one.
Greg, what about custody, sir? What about custody? Are there any rulings? Sorry.
There's a court session on Friday. We're gonna present to the judge a schedule for ruling on custody. I think that schedule is largely, if not entirely, resolved now between the debtor, the committee, and the two ad hoc committees that made that motion. And we're going to ask Judge Glenn to set that trial, which will be sometime at the end of November or the beginning of December. And, we'll hopefully Judge Glenn approves it, and we'll get some rulings from him then. So anyway, I know these things go on for a while. I encourage you all to keep at it. And like I said, we're open. There's no monopoly on good ideas here. So we're here to hear your ideas, and, we might agree with it or disagree with it, but, we're interested in seeing it. We read everything on social media, more or less, that we can see. Our members are all lurking as well. Even if you don't see them, they're lurking, reading and reporting back to us. So, keep at it, and we'll try to make this more common. And hopefully, this has been helpful for all you tonight.
Yeah, it's been extremely productive. Thank you so much for taking the time today to speak with us. And I would love to have as much of this as possible going forward.
Great. All right. Good luck. Take care.
Thank you. All right. We'll leave it open for a few more comments, and then I'm just going to close the room after that. I think that was awesome to have him on here and provided a lot more clarity and insight, and looking forward to the disclosures that were coming out. Otis, I think you made some really great points there that I agree with. And I think, again, all of us are aligning behind a few key facts, and maybe we can just start putting this list together of not wanting to sell our assets, being paid back in crypto, And as that list grows, maybe we can continue to present that so that those core functions are maintained.
I have a question for Otis.
Yes,
I
sir.
tried to ask a question to UCC, but he just left off. I was the last person waiting on the queue. So Otis, I have a question. You mentioned that. First of all, I really thankful for your hard work you're doing. I'm following you and your ideas and your videos, and for recovery and all. I really 100% support to you, Otis. So one quick question. You mentioned that 50% of assets Celsius hold. Currently they have like 50% our coins. So is this number includes the cell token or not including the cell token?
Remember, Celsius has over 320 million cell tokens in its treasury. So the cell token is not an issue. I mean, that's way over collateralized.
Okay.
No, he's not meaning that we'd have to sell cell token to make 50%. He's saying that, there and the percents are different, and we just ran through public numbers today where you have 70% of the ETH, you have 35% of the Bitcoin, you have 36% of the stable coin. So there's like a balance. It comes out to right about 50%. But yeah, that's what he's referring to. And that's just the crypto assets. And then you have to add the non-crypto assets to really get an idea of what the whole is. And I think something we all very effectively communicated tonight was, yes, the market is going to value these assets at 10% or 5% of what they could be in the next few years. So the last thing we want to do is, take a stink bid because that's what's all available today. We would much rather wait a few years and get a much higher valuation on these assets.
Yeah, and the point I was trying to make to the UCC is, okay, if we decide to get our coins back now, we'll probably get 50% back. We'll probably get 50% of our coins back. If we get a bid, it may jump up to 53 or 55%. Using those basic simple numbers, that tells you that 5% is not worth all of the assets that I listed off, and there are probably more. So what I'm saying is, if you're going to bid Mr. Sam Bankman-Fried or whoever else on our assets, make us 100% whole. The truth of the matter is we deserve 300% whole for all of these assets, but we'll settle for 100% whole. 5% is not worth all of these assets. We're better off doing a standalone restructuring. That is not my opinion. That is what the numbers are telling you. Everyone will agree 5% on top of 50%, 55% is not worth all of these assets. It's not even worth the Bitcoin mining facility on a standalone basis. It's that simple. And that's the point I was trying to get to Greg. And he said, am I sure of the numbers? I've been here from day one. I have a very, very good memory when it comes to this stuff. 35,000 ETH was lost by stake count on Fireblocks. There's no disputing that. You can see the stuff on chain. I know the numbers. A lot of people didn't know Celsius invested in Polygon. I did. And I remember the press release. What is it? 45 million for 1 inch. A lot of people didn't know that either. 25 million in 1 inch. All of those investment, everything the bidder gets. And we get nothing. A simply measly 5%. Guys, that's not worth it. I'm sorry.
But Otis,
that's painful.
But Otis, I think what we're also missing, and correct me if I'm not wrong, and I don't think this has been brought up, sir, the first equities payback loan at the $5 million a month or parts thereof, right? That has not been mentioned once. That's the other part that no one's talking about.
I don't even think a lot of people know that. First Equities is paying back $5 million per month, and they owe 3,900 Bitcoin.
Yeah,
in addition,
over 300 million still need to be paid back.
Exactly, guys, and I don't think.
Yeah,
not over. That was one of the questions I had for Greg.
$376 million.
I get it, but remember, I think I'm gonna put this to Zach. Zach, please, can you make a note as to, hey, also don't forget we have this loan payback that's in place at the $5 million or their parts thereof a month. Because that number, that big number that they're talking about, the $380 million, is a big portion, and no one's talking about it, guys. Nobody.
Plus 3,900 Bitcoin.
Right.
Otis, logically think about this realistically. Sam or someone can come in and make a bid. Let's just say they bid 400 million above the crypto balances. Like they did 100 million for the Voyager thing. They could do 400 million because they already know 400 million is coming back by equities first.
Yes, they're gonna buy the
For
debt
free.
out from
They buy it for
Undirected.
free.
10
That
cents
is
on the
what
Yep.
I'm
dollar
trying to
and,
bring.
Okay.
That's why
and
I'm
wait.
trying to bring it to Greg's attention and to the UCC.
I
Guys,
know.
if you don't know, here are the numbers.
And you
Don't
give away
question. Go research if you don't believe me. The numbers are right here.
This is the greatest part about it. Someone could come in with that for 400 million, let's just say above the crypto, right? Get the business for literally free. It's just going to
Yep.
pay them back the money they invested over time. Then they could have a mining business that they could take public for a $10 billion evaluation for free.
Thank you,
And
Anthony.
we get 55%. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
You
it's
don't even
crazy.
get
Okay,
100%.
now you guys are seeing what I've been trying to talk about. No one's bringing up these are the critical factors. This is the key point.
Thank
That's
you, Harry. Thank you, Do Kwon, for bringing this up.
oh my God, Anthony, stop.
Harry, I've been working on this in the back end. I really wasn't prepared to release this information tonight, but it was like I was just in a jam and had to release it. That's why I didn't come on the Spaces just yesterday, DeFi Down, because I was busy working.
Well,
I'm working on a few things.
Yeah.
I didn't want to prepare to release this, but
Sure.
I had to.
I think there should be something to said for like a factor for time preference here. Again, liquidity for those that need it right away is very, very important, but we should not liquidate all of our assets because of that. We should find a way to give them the coins that are here now and then let these assets mature so that they can grow hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion or $2. And there we go.
That's why I was asking a question about returning coins, because I want to return liquidity to these users as fast as possible. They're desperate.
This could be the fastest way to do it, in my personal opinion, for both of you guys to just think about this logically. For example, you have, Celsius as we know it today, right? You can sell the customers in the loan business because let's just say you don't want it to be a company going forward, and you could try to revive another 5%, whatever, 3, 5, 7%, whatever you think you could sell the KYC customers for, plus the loan business, if you don't want it to be a business moving forward. And then you could have the current management team or bring in people you want to bring in, right, to run these other traditional businesses that really don't deal with retail customers, the mining business, GK8, and you could just hold on to these assets until you want to take them public in the next bull market and give people the 50-60% of their coin back now with the acquisition, the sale of the Celsius platform, in the sense of just the the customers and the loan business, and you could just keep the other things, and we all get equity in the other things for the future to get the rest of the money back potentially.
And Anthony, this is like if you want to put all of these assets to work right now, someone asked I think they were asking Greg the regulatory questions. You need securities, you need lending, you need money transmitters.
Saying you're not going to do any of those. You're selling that all off. All you're doing is keeping the mining business in GK8 and your investments.
Yeah, but why not have a platform where we can sell off all those assets to people that want to put them in their retirement plan with secondary markets, issue equity, issue security tokens?
Because we want them.
Make the most out of all of it.
Well, no, it could just be, I'm just saying this is simple methodology. We own the businesses now as the creditors. You could just keep those businesses as traditional businesses, keep it very dummied down and simple, get another 200, 300 million back for selling the loan business and the KYC customers to Sam tomorrow, make that a traditional company. You don't have to deal with any regulatory, no bullshit. You're not dealing with retail customers no more, and you just have these entities that are potentially worth a lot of money in a couple of years from now. It's just a traditional business play. You don't need to deal with shit. I don't need to deal with regulatory. I'm not taking no one's money. We're not giving no loans. We're not doing shit. We're just a traditional company that has no regulatory shit to deal with.
And we're just waiting on IPO. That's
exactly.
Hey guys,
that's just not the reality. It's just not the reality.
But it could be very possible. It's a simple thing to do. It's not hard to do.
No, but this is Alex's narrative. if you want to pay out all these coins, if you want to get past regulators right now, if you want to comply with anti-money laundering laws, if you want to do all this stuff,
we're gonna let Sam buy it, and Sam could deal with it and get us our coins back for buying us for $50 or $100 a head.
Correct. It's going to Sam.
Going to Sam.
Right.
Sam, figure this shit out.
Sam has all the license. Let him figure that shit out. We don't need to figure that out.
Guys, one quick question for you. Sorry, Simon. Sorry, Anthony. Sorry, Otis and Zach. Can I please, Scott Duffy, if you're still in the audience with us, we'd like to let you know, because I know you're part of the UCC committee. Please don't forget about that $380 million monthly payback. If you'd like to come on stage, we'd love to have you.
5 million monthly payback.
Yeah, 5 million, but 380 million. I think 380 or 370 million total over the 5 years or whatever.
Hey, wouldn't it be nice? Think about all this. We know there's hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to get paid back to these things as well, right? So we know we have about 50% of the coins right now. You go sell the KYC customers in the loan business, maybe you get 55%, right, of the whole, okay? You let those customers go to Sam or whoever the hell wants to buy them. They give us our money back within a few months, and we're part of these platforms now. But then we own all these other businesses now because we have equity in all these other companies that have nothing to do with, lending, no retail customers. They're just traditional businesses. They don't need anything. You're going to have hundreds of millions of dollars still coming back from different lawsuits, different things to the overall company that could help expand those businesses and make them extremely successful, where our equity becomes tremendous value on the equity potentially. So there's so many ways you can do this, but I think that's such a simple way, because then you don't have to deal with, are we good with the governments and laws and securities and all this.
That's an excellent point. And instead of fighting uphill on the regulatory side, let's just dump the regulatory weight, if you will, get the licenses.
That's why I wanted to take the mining. That's why I came up with the plan initially to take the mining companies separately, because I didn't want to deal with all that shit. Just make it a separate entity.
Same thing for GKA. We don't need.
We don't need anything. They're traditional businesses. We don't need this shit.
Yeah, drop the rest of the nonsense.
Let Sam deal with all of that.
Right.
All of that. Sam, you go deal with all of that since you have all the licenses.
Exactly.
And we will wait and take the Bitcoin mining facility public, and we'll cash out our money, not Sam.
Exactly.
All of our money.
We'll collect our
invested.
debts. Right.
We were Series A, B, C, and D. We were the investors. Why should Sam benefit?
All of the investments we're going to have
benefit.
We're going to have 5 million
with our Bitcoin.
Hey, we have 5 million a month coming in to expand operations, to do what we need to do, just cash flow from that other thing. We're going to have other, debts, lawsuits, whatever. More money coming back to the entity. Expand these businesses, do it right. Our investments in 1inch, Matic, all these things at the top of the next bull market. Do you know what they all could be worth? Stupid amounts of money.
Yeah, we're just going to give it away for a measly 5%? Come on.
And don't forget our position in staked ETH. Don't forget the position in staked ETH. So that's going to come around in the next 12 months.
410,000 STEs. 410,000 STE staked.
Exactly.
I could be wrong, but Zach, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the number. From memory.
Yeah, but I think 460. An enormous amount again, and then the 35,000 coming in from left field, and again the revenues from this mining business. We have to get some updated numbers because it's been a while. But last time they were mining Bitcoin at 15 and a half. Now we're going into winter. Prices are down. Hash rate is up, and the size is up as well dramatically of the amount of miners online. So we got.
How many miners do we have online now? Is it 40? Is it still in the 40s?
No, I think we're more in the 60s now, and then coming into the 80s at the end of this month.
We have 120,000 miners that we paid for with our Bitcoin, ETH, and USDC, guys.
Exactly.
Why are we giving that to Sam Bankman-Fried for free? It's our money.
S19 pluses.
They haven't even delivered. They haven't even all been delivered, and you just want to say, don't send them to our doorstep. Send them to Sam's. No, thank you.
You guys realize the retail value of the 60,000 miners coming in? Of course, they did not play full retail value because they bought them in massive bulk. But retail values these miners at $6,000 a head. That means it's $360 million worth of miners coming in, which they probably paid around $250 million, my estimation, 2 to 250. That's what you'll be able to work out with Bitmain if you know what the hell you're doing. But they probably paid between 2 and 250. So you have like $250 million worth of miners just coming to shore over the next 90 days that we paid for. Let's put all these bad boys to work. And the funny thing is, I hear people talking. I made a tweet earlier today. I thought mining wasn't relevant or something. I made a stupid tweet because the hash rate's stronger than fucking ever. That means people are still making money mining. Okay, the hash rate will, and all the difficulty would get easier when the prices get lower because more people are going to start dropping offline. But they're still mining, meaning they understand the future of this industry, and they also understand that they could still be profitable even at these levels. Once we go below 15, then I think we'd start seeing people drop offline. But it's
Anthony,
just
could you
interesting.
list a single blockchain company that's making profit right now? I responded to your post. Riot Blockchain lost
Yeah,
366 million in Q2. Hut
two
8
of the
Mining lost 186 million
yeah,
Canadian dollars.
two of the companies I'm invested in. One of them's a public company, and we're turning profits.
Okay, can you post that to the thread so we can examine it?
You could examine the shit all you want, bro. I'll send you the direct link.
Perfect, thank you. And
Yeah.
Zach, you made a specific comment earlier saying that Celsius Mining is currently profitable. Could you just explain how you're making that assertion?
Cam,
So
you're looking at this. Wait, let me make a point to Cam. They invested money into machines and stuff, so they mark down things as losses. It doesn't mean they're mining at a loss. They put investments up, those companies. You got to understand how to read those financials. They're not mining at a loss. They're at a loss because they invested a shit ton of money into machines that they're in the negative for. That doesn't mean they're not profitable when it comes to mining.
There was a specific assertion that Zach made that Celsius Mining is
I'd be
profitable.
happy to clarify that.
Yeah,
I'd be happy
please.
to clarify that.
No,
So
Cam, but you said Riot and Mara, for example. I know both of those companies, they're profitable on the power cost to what they're mining,
right,
but they made a significant investment. So it's showing negative losses on the balance sheet, and that's what they do
exactly.
because as a
That's how you
public
prevent
company, they
paying
want to take
taxes.
there you go. Here we
That's
go.
Donald
That's how
Trump
this whole
wealth right
shit
there.
works. Yeah, I'm just
So
saying, like,
you're
Cam,
saying their operating losses of $1/3 billion for 3 months is just because they've
yeah,
invested in.
it's strategic. It's very strategic. They know exactly what they're doing, and that's why they still have 8 to 10. Mara has 10,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet right now.
Well, it's interesting because a year ago they were running mostly neutral for the
Yeah,
same
because of
year-over-year
course,
period.
because the price of Bitcoin was at 50,000, where their revenues are significantly higher, bro.
So
When the price of
we won't
Bitcoin's
argue.
up,
We're not going to argue the balance sheets of other companies right
yeah,
now. But
yeah, but it's
to
just how it
directly answer
works.
your question, Cam,
I think it's just worth. There's a lot of retail investors on this call, and you just got to be slightly more aware that when you're making these forward-looking statements, you just got to be slightly a bit more careful about what you're saying because that you're talking revenue, but like you're painting a very one-sided picture here. And I'm a shareholder in over 100 companies, and it's just not quite as simple as you're pointing it out. It's all good. Like, we all want to make a lot of money out of this, but can we not continue this culture of misrepresentation and taking people down? If Greg hadn't come in a second ago, we would have had a whole call, and I would have just spent the whole day talking about how regulations matter, and Alex just represented that everyone could have got their money back and just ignored regulations all over again. Like, we just got to get. I understand sometimes I may be on the negative side for you guys, but we got to remove this culture of painting this one-sided misrepresentation that's going to drive regulators to just take us down a really nasty path. Because when you're saying statements like this, look, Anthony, you're great at painting a picture, but you got to add more. You got to add a bit more disclosure, a bit more, two-sidedness to these equations, because we are in a tough market, and many of the companies that I'm invested in are in serious situations right now because there's two
Most
sides
crypto
to this.
companies are, for sure, because they don't understand the
Yeah,
cycles.
but you guys are all just painting this picture of like this billions of dollars of things that are just going to fall and rain upon us.
I don't think anyone's painting that picture. To be honest, I think Otis
You are. You guys have just spent like
Otis made it very
literally.
clear. Otis said
Alex came along and said, "Look, everyone just needs to get their money. Screw the licenses. Screw regulations.
I wasn't
Everyone
here for
gets their
Alex,
money."
so I don't know what he said. I have no idea.
And Greg had to come in and say that's not true. And literally, we would have just been like, if Greg hadn't come on, then we would have just spent the next week like undoing all of the unification that we've been trying to work hard on.
No, I
just
agree
with
with you.
one like just coming up and just painting this
That's why
incredibly rosy picture
I
of
make
something
shit.
that.
But Simon, that's why I make shit so easy. Let Sam deal with all that shit. Let's just take the traditional businesses, take equity, and move on. Like it's
Yeah,
the simplest.
it sounds simple. It's not.
But what's hard about that? Sam will buy the customers. We know he'll buy them. And if he says, "Hey, give me the Voyager deal," he'll buy them at $50 a customer because you know the value that will give his business. It'll be astronomical. Another 1.7 million KYC customers. Come on, he spent $1 billion on traditional advertisements and couldn't get one customer. He'll spend another couple $100 million to get these, especially at the valuations he's showing FTX at, which are just asinine. But
And these are for pure crypto customers, not
yeah,
people that go to Miami Heat or FTX Arena. These are pure
exactly.
crypto customers.
Hey, I
Pure
want to
crypto
answer
customers.
Cam's question. Okay, he's been patiently waiting for all this
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Sorry,
but I do understand that. I would say that, admittedly, for myself, I do. I'm very an optimistic person in general, and of course, it's never going to be that easy, and it's never going to be all upside. There's going to be a lot of risk and downside potential. So everybody understand that we're not talking about guaranteed things here, but I'm an optimistic person, and I definitely want a standalone recovery where Celsius can collect on what's coming. And to answer Cam's question directly, on the 341 meeting, it may have been a month and a half ago now. It's dated, and that's why I said that. But they were mining at 15,000. They said it under oath, as they were being, I wouldn't say cross-examined, but questioned by the other lawyers. That's about the rate at which they're mining Bitcoin at that time. And then power has gone down, hash rate has gone up. We'll have to get more information, and we have more miners now. But at that time, 6 weeks ago, that's where the profitability came into play.
I think we lost Simon as a speaker. The app may have rugged, so just an FYI.
Yeah, I'll bring him back up. I didn't kick him.
But Zach,
I
you're
still
right.
see him as a speaker.
But Zach, you're right about this. And the valuation is going to keep on changing, guys. That's what people, because the crypto market doesn't sleep; it keeps on going, and it's 24/7, 365. So, just like I think Anthony pointed out and Otis pointed out, in 12 months, 36 months, in the next bull cycle, we will definitely know that Bitcoin and Ethereum are not going to be at their current levels, hands down. So it's just a matter of kind of riding this wave out for all of us, and the people that are hard hit, like that absolutely need access to their crypto or their funds, there's some type of easement, and then we deal with the rest of it going forward. So like
the best way I see to give them access right now is to get rid of the dead weight that need licenses and give the Sam Bankman for SBF. Let him deal with all the licenses, and then these people get their money back, as soon as possible. I can wait; they can't. So why fight all the regulation? Let Sam deal with it and incorporate them in his platform, and then they get access to their money, as soon as possible. That's the easiest way I see it.
Right. So let me ask you a question,
with
Otis.
regulators to get out of Chapter 11, and we still own the Bitcoin mining facility and all the other facilities as creditors, and we
Right,
move
but
forward
hold
that way.
on. But we have a buyer right here, Simon. You have an interest in Celsius, don't you? I know. I know you do. So now you've heard all this information today, especially with Greg being here. Thank you, Zach, and thank you everybody for arranging this room. So based on what you've heard today, especially in the last 15 minutes between Anthony and Otis, myself. Would you now make a different type of offer for Celsius in making their users whole and gaining some equity and so on and so forth that you've heard of all of today's conversation, please?
Well, as I've been saying all along, or what I've been saying more recently, there's a process for getting people what their assets that they're due. There's equity in a company that can put everything to work, and there's a security of giving people entitlement to all those assets. As a community, we've got everything that we need. We just need to put all that together in a good way. And that can be done in a few different ways. It can be done through Celsius, it can be done through the bidding process, or it can be done through the UCC.
Right, but you've heard in the last 15 minutes between Anthony, Otis, a little bit by myself, now you know that there's money coming into Celsius that's worth value. You've definitely heard of GKA and its value. You've definitely heard of the mining and its value. Zach was kind enough to give us a snapshot maybe of 6 weeks ago as to how many of those miners are there. So wouldn't it be in your best interest, sir, and you've been part of these different communities, whether it's with Plan C, whether it's been on these chats, or in some of my rooms, some in Don DeFi's rooms, wouldn't you now do a slight recalculation? Maybe I'm like, hey, instead of Sam Bank-Friedman getting it all, you are now in a very good position to have the community that understands you, that knows who you are, to be able to make a better offer for Celsius and its customer base and making its community whole, sir.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I've been discussing with everyone over the last couple of days. What's the new information?
Well, the fact that,
licenses.
Yeah, exactly.
Regulation.
There you go. Yeah, that's one of them.
And what came to my mind instantly is, okay, Sam Bankman-Fried, you want the loan business that we are going to require regulation to come out of Chapter 11? Okay, fine, we'll sell it to you. Make your best bid. We'll sell it to you. You deal with all the regulation, and we kill two birds with one stone. What we do is we get our users that need money back ASAP, their money back right now. And that I would focus on that these people need access to liquidity and can't sit here and wait another 6 months or 7 months. Some of us can. I can, but they can't. They need their money back. And if listen, Sam Bankman-Fried blocked me. I've asked him 2 questions and he blocks me. I'm no fan of his. Everyone knows that. But I'm here for the community first. That's who I represent. And if I see a way for them strategy, to get their money back ASAP, I'm not going to turn my back on it for them to get their money back right now.
So the strategy you're proposing is to sell off certain assets and keep certain assets, sell them off in the upcoming auction.
Not them. Sell the ones that need licenses. That's going to be dead weight on us. Yes, we don't need licenses to operate a Bitcoin mining facility. Yeah, get rid of the dead weight.
That's what I was trying to do in the first proposal. I was just trying to make it, because my first proposal was all about, I don't give a shit what Alex and all these people do because they might fuck up in the future. Give us our coins, whatever you have, and then let's take equity in a business that's not as volatile with regulatory, all the issues potentially coming. That was why the first proposal I put forward, I made it a separate entity, the mining business. So even if they did stupid shit in the future and got shut down, it wouldn't affect that company. That was my thought process.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty late here. I think I've been up all night and all day, but yeah, let's figure out how we want to put all this together. That's where we're at right now. I think
we could sell it to anyone. We could sell it to one of your companies you've invested in. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me.
Give us we bid against someone else. Even if you, Simon, and you want to connect the deal, and no one's against. Of course, that's not going to fill the hole anyways. But if it could get a couple $100 million, $200-300 million back to the estate for us to potentially get some more coin to people, and then we could take the other companies public. Hey, That's
Yeah.
in the future,
and get
in a
rid of
couple
the
years.
dead weight so that the
Yeah,
regulatory burden
leaves us
isn't,
alone.
you know.
And
Exactly.
we get liquidity to the people that need it right now. Because
And that's,
it's
yeah.
already 4 months, and how much longer can they wait?
And this is why when having Simon here was the best opportunity to, put this question to him, guys, is because of what was said. But yes, that was my point. But you already got know where I was getting at. Thank you so much. Sorry for disturbing again.
So just to be clear, though, you're asking me to bid on the regulatory assets. That's what you'd like
You
as
could bid
part of
on
this
it if
plan.
you're going to have a fair bid, and you and Sam are going head to head, and you want to bring it to some other company. We're all cool with that. Then you could help us out with the process of setting up the other companies, into an entity or something where we put the rest of them where we all get equity in. Yeah, that's fine. Take the
Yeah, and
1.7 million KYC
you'd
questions.
prefer cash over equity in the regulated business by your proposal here.
My proposal was give us the crypto back that we currently have. We have
Yep.
crypto that we currently have that's locked in the platform, right?
Yeah.
Someone like Sam is going to buy the crypto plus throw a few $100 million on top because that's the
Correct.
value of those customers, okay? So throw a
Correct.
few $100 million on top. They threw $100 million on the Voyager thing, and they don't even have a lending business. So a lending company would give us a few hundred just for the lending, in my personal opinion. The 33,000 loans or whatever the case is there. You could even do two separate transactions. Someone could just take the custodial earn customers, and then someone could take just the lending aspect, or it could be all in one, right? Either way you shake it. But bring some additional money back to the entity, okay? Give us all with that additional money. You could even buy some stables, whatever. Just help the whole, whatever you're going to do with
Yeah.
that extra money, and then from there. Okay, we get all that coin back in whatever platform that we're all going to be in. If it's FTX, if it's Kraken, if it's whatever exchange that we're a part of now. Now we just
Bitfinex,
take
whatever.
Bitfinex, yeah, don't matter, whatever company. Whoever buys it, okay, we're all customers there. Give us all the coin that we have. If it's 55% of the coin, great, give it back to everyone. And then give us all the upside potential in these businesses moving forward and the equity in these other companies, the mining business, GK8, and all the investments.
And that way we rid
Otis,
ourselves of dead weight and regulation.
We don't
Otis
have to
and
worry about any of that shit. Yeah.
Otis and
And Simon,
Anthony,
and
if I
guess
could just
what?
step in for a second, I kind of agree that that might be the easiest and most sure path forward. It would be a shame to me to see the backbone of Celsius, which is really a lending platform, a way for the average person to be able to earn interest, not survive this
I
process.
understand that, Joe,
If
but
it
it's about
can't,
getting
when,
people their money.
let me just
It's
finish.
yeah.
If right, exactly. If we can't get through those issues, then as sad as it is, we don't have a choice. We just have to maximize the value of the sale of some of these assets and keep some of them. But Celsius would in effect be gone. So if there is a way to work through the regulatory issues and push the
We can't,
regulators
from
to,
what Mr. Dixon is saying. It's hard.
it's hard. I don't think he's saying
It's a
he can't.
problem.
I don't think he's saying we can't. He's just saying it's hard, and that's what Greg was saying also. So as soon as we get clarity from the UCC and from Celsius on what licenses are needed, what regulatory issues we have to overcome, then we can go to work on that and see if it's possible. If it's not, then you're right. We're better off selling off certain assets, maybe keeping some, and just giving back people
But
back their
Joe,
money.
but please bear in mind, and Simon could attest to this. Under Chapter 11 bankruptcies, there are ways, because I've heard Simon say this, to fast track some of these licenses to make the creditors.
That's not the case. People keep getting
Oh,
that one wrong.
Zach, bring people up, please.
Chapter
Just a
11
PSA.
has
I can't.
exemptions. Sorry, Chapter 11 has exemptions that allows you to issue equity as compensation. It doesn't do anything else. It doesn't
sorry, yeah.
change laws. It doesn't. It's not a sandbox. It doesn't allow you to be, innovative around. It doesn't force through licenses. It doesn't do any of that. It has certain exemptions which allow you to have a pathway to becoming a public company and issuing shares through the Chapter 11. All of the other stuff, there's no innovation on that side.
So, thank you, Simon. Sorry, I must have misunderstood it, but yes. But I think that process in itself, right, by getting non-accredited investors to become equity holders through this process will definitely shore up that business, in addition to the fact that say you take it, whether it's Back to the Future or any of your Bitfinex or any of your other companies that you own or have ownership in will have this at least 300,000 people customer base, right? Hopefully, you will be able to hire people like Zach or any of the other Celsius employees that were crucial in the stages that helped create Celsius to where they are now.
I think Zach would be horrified by the thought of working for me. I'm not going to speak to you, Zach.
Whoa! Hey.
Whoa! No, I don't think so.
Yeah, don't. I'm a little offended. You had that preconceived notion of me.
None of this is personal. None of this is personal. I said it from a long time ago.
I
No,
didn't know how we found ourselves here, Zach. But yeah, I thought you'd be horrified by the thought.
No. That's the key point. Simon, please understand this. I'm in the entertainment business, right? I got introduced to Celsius through a guy named Josh, who I think is here, and Zach. And these are the two people I find I've become friends with and endear. And, you know, I've even brought some of my investors in my arena to Celsius through them because they are that good of people. So when you have good people that work for a company that help build this company and have direct links and respect by the community, I would definitely reach out to them because there could be some misconceived pre-notions that may not actually be true, like we just found out seconds ago here, sir, that these people might actually work for you and work for one of your companies and help bring this community to your platform, to your businesses, especially if you make an incredible business offer, knowing that you're going to get $375 million over this, several year period on at least one of the payback loans. You might want to re-examine certain other notions as things have changed here, sir.
Just a simple PSA, guys. I'm a co-host, but I'm trying to bring people up, but my co-host function is not working. So I see the DMs, but I'm trying, and it just will not work. Zach will have to do it unless I leave stage and come back. But otherwise, it's just not working. I don't know why, guys.
It's crazy hours for me right now, so this is definitely a night for me. But very interesting and successful space. Started volatile, went through the whole journey. Let's figure it all out. Like I just see massive progress this week. And so let's just put it all together because there's only going to be one plan, and it's the one that we all want to do, and that's it. Okay, I'm going to jump off. Well done, everybody.
Thanks, Simon.
Bye.
Simon, please get in touch with Zach. Or Zach, get in touch with Simon. I think that could be a great asset for you, sir.
Okay, absolutely. Bye.
See you, Simon. Have a good night, man.
See ya. Okay, we're going to try to move people through the speakers as much as you can. Go ahead, Joe. And Harry, if you want to step off.
Just a quick. Yeah.
Do you want me to be a co-host to bring people up?
So, I just thought it was funny.
Just a quick question.
Yeah, Joe, you could go. Right.
Yeah, guys, let's just. Could we do we all agree that if there was a way?
An hour. What the fuck?
Sorry, just really quick on the last conversation. If there was a way today to get through all the regulatory and licensing hurdles, do we agree that the biggest value creation for the creditors would be to keep Celsius intact as much as possible?
Not if the regulatory hurdle is.
No, that was my question.
He said without the regulatory hurdle. That's what he said.
Oh,
right.
Well, of course, yeah. Okay. Of course, we want to keep the business as whole as possible, but now we're kind of having this thought of, well, if the
regular, your hands up at all, it's like really inconsiderate. I just wanted you guys to know that we're waiting for half an hour.
Okay, hang tight, Selcat. We'll get you up next. So we know that we want to keep the business as whole as possible, but a great concept was brought up that if like Simon has said and others have said, that if there are grave regulatory concerns, let's not sink the ship with those concerns and drop as many as we can, and then float out of this with the other assets that we have that are not regulatory concerns, that could be very valuable down the road.
Let me just
live to fight another day.
Yeah, go ahead, Selcat.
Let me just add to this discussion very fast.
Ron Paul, I'm gonna defer to Selcat, and then you can go next.
Okay.
Okay, it's just been a lot of information that I've been taking in. So I've just been. It kind of sounded like you guys were saying just let's sell out to SBF when that was your complete opposite opinion an
No,
hour ago.
not true. That's not what we said. We said keep all the assets, just give them the KYC customers if we can't do it in a regulatory way. Because there was a whole call with the UCC. I don't know. The guy came on basically and was one of his points was regulatory is the hardest thing to deal with here. So we basically said, okay, let's not deal with regulatory. Let's let someone else deal with that.
I think everyone just got
Yeah,
muted.
yeah. Go ahead. It's okay. Yeah, I think Anthony said it right. That we're of course we don't want to sell out of our valuable assets, but this notion of selling maybe some of the encumbered assets that will be too difficult to get regulatory approval on could let those lead weights kind of drop from us and let us rise faster out of this.
So is it possible though that we, because I just don't. It's like, are we talking about killing Celsius, or are we trying to get through this?
No,
Well,
yeah.
how they making it sound is they're saying there's no Celsius either way. Basically, that's what they're trying to. That's what they're painting, in my opinion. The UCC.
Yeah, I agree. As much as I want to keep Celsius, I prefer
Yeah.
us to keep the name and the branding and everything, but at the end of the day, the assets are what's going to put money in all our pockets.
So is he gonna buy, like, he's gonna buy Cell Token, or am I just fucked?
Selkat, I think you're thinking about this the wrong way. We're talking about things like the loan business, for example, okay, that may be too difficult to get out of bankruptcy without major regulatory upheaval, and may not be worth the juice may not be worth the squeeze. So we sell the loan business, for example, put a couple $100 million in our pockets, move forward with our other businesses that don't have the regulatory overhead that something like loans does.
Okay, so
So
we
let me make it real. If you want me to make it simple, I'll make the explanation as simple as possible. Looking into this, I would think that you would need licenses to return coins. Mr. Regulator, can we please get our coins back? No, you can't get your coins back because you need licenses to return coins. Really? We just want our coins back. You're here to protect us. So what Mr. Dixon said and what the attorney said from White and Case is you're not getting your coins back because regulators are going to stop it. Okay, fine. Let's shed our dead weight then. Let's give Sam Bankman, sell it to Sam Bankman-Fried. Whatever needs licenses, we sell it to Sam Bankman-Fried. And that way we get rid of that. We can live to fight another day and get the hell out of Chapter 11, because if we're going to fight over regulation, we're going to sit here for 2 years and burn through cash.
Exactly.
Why do that?
But my concern is, can we come through this, and, like, are we still able to, have a baseline amount of utility for Cell, or is this like?
Yes, of course. This has nothing to do with Cell Token itself. This is just parts of the business that require more regulation than others.
No, Zach, he's I think he's trying to make the point of, like, does a Cell Token exist if that happened?
Yes, of course it
Yes,
still does.
it's going to be a decentralized token. It probably won't have much value at that point, but you got to realize your Cell Token that's locked in the platform is going towards your equity in the company anyways, so it's valued as dollars. So if you got equity in, let's just say,
So you can
GK,
still have
the
it as a
mining
utility
business,
token as well.
but for what? For it doesn't utility to anything. It could be a token still in the market for sure, but I'm just saying I mean, there's not going to be like some crazy value behind it because it's not going to be used for something. If Sam came in and bought the loans business and then he bought the custodial business or something, I don't think Sam's interested in the loan business. So that could go to a different entity that has the loan model, and then you could take let's just say the rest of the customers, the earned custodial accounts, and then you could sell them to, like, Sam. And Sam will pay easily $50 a head. We might even be able to get him up to like $60 or $70 a head, which would be a lot better than 50. That's what he got Voyagers for. But you get those, hundreds of millions. Let's say you could get 300-400 million between both of those back to the company. And then we get all our money back that they currently have, plus that extra money coming into the pot. And then we get equity in all these other traditional businesses moving forward that don't have all this scrutiny, all this regulatory, all these other issues potentially. That's the concept.
But Zach, are you still pushing for a plan, or are we like I'm just
No, I think he's still pushing for a plan. This is just an option if the plan doesn't get approved. I believe Celsius themselves are pushing for a plan. He said that tonight on the call. The UCC said the new CEO of Celsius has been very good to work with, and they're going to be proposing, a plan to reorg themselves. But who knows if that gets approved or doesn't get approved, right? This is just a hypothetical, Cellcat, not a set thing. But
okay? Thank you. Sorry.
Okay,
All right,
can
next
I
we have
go?
Ron Paul.
Yeah, Ron
Yeah.
Paul, yeah.
I just want to say that that I think Simon mentioned before that in your plan you should have a backup plan. So if something goes wrong, you should have like a liquidation plan or something that can just revert the most value for users. And I think what you guys just mentioned is should be in a plan. So you should say, if by 6 months or after we spend this amount of money, if there is no way to implement the lending because of regulations, let's go with selling maybe those parts of the company that has that regulatory hurdle, and just keep the rest. So I think you should. I think it might look like another plan, but no, I think that makes sense to be part of a plan, even if you assume reorg, you should put that as well, because shit can happen, and you don't want to burn all your money. But Shark, I thank you for like pushing that guy from Celsius UCC, because I think he was kind of bullshitting, because he said that, right, we're going to put this on sale, but it will be first just to see the bids, but we want a reorg. I don't think that's, I'm sorry, but I think he was kind of doing some bullshit, because if they are really trying to do a reorg, he will probably wait for a plan before doing that auction. That's my view. So I still don't understand why they want to do that early before the plan. But maybe something escaped my understanding. But that's what I seen, what I understood.